Most of the Western countries did not even know about that. And I think this was the first thing that UN actually acknowledged. So every March or April, like around there, I was promoting this like, hey, there's this day called International
The rest
Day.
of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Hello. So good evening to everybody, and thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Cecilia Lipp, and I'm the Executive Director of the International Action Network for Gender Equity and Law. And as you all know, we're here this evening because we are an international network of attorneys who are working and believing in gender equality for women's rights organizations, working with women's rights organizations worldwide. We've had the outstanding opportunity to partner with a number of organizations over the past 2 years, and tonight actually marks our second anniversary. So we're delighted that everybody can be here and join us. Thank you. A few people that we wanted to thank. First of all, I wanted to, as executive director, and I just came in January, first and foremost, I really want to thank all of the board members of this organization who really have been making a tremendous personal effort to create this network over the last 2 years and have really done a spectacular job. I also want to thank Kay Mosier-Heyerbaum, who has so beautifully offered to have the space and host the space. Please give her a huge also to Hanson Bridget, who has been a leader for us in supporting this work and having a commitment to gender equality. And also we have a number of organizational co-sponsors, including Queen's Bench, California Women Lawyers, Women's Intercultural Network, and Muse Crossing. And so Muse Crossing is going to be joining us this evening. They are a spectacular musical group, and we're delighted to have them. So they're going to open the program for us. Thank you.
Sometimes I lay under the moon, I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I'm here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they feed on the souls of the innocent, blood-drenched pavement. Keep on moving though the water stay raging. In this maze you can lose your way. Your way, it might drive you crazy, but don't let it phase you. No way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. One day this all will change, treat people the same, stop the violence, down with the hate. They will all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom. Why, oh, oh, why, all my life I've been waiting for, I've and our children will play. One day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day.
Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to those who logged on and are watching this live on the web. My name is Nancy Newman. I'm the founder and president of the International Action Network for Gender Equity and Law. A mouthful of a name. It goes by the handy acronym IANGEL. We have so much to celebrate this evening. First, we celebrate International Women's Day because the women of this world matter. We celebrate early feminists like Clara Zetkin and Rosa Luxemburg, who first celebrated International Women's Day over 100 years ago as a means to promote women's right to vote, to hold office, and to participate fairly in all aspects of society. Last week, Cecilia and I celebrated International Women's Day in New York City at the United Nations 59th NGO Conference on the Status of Women. It was awesome. There, with thousands of amazing, powerful NGO leaders, feminists, and advocates, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the historic Beijing Platform for Action for Gender Equality in the New Millennium. And while it was noted the many challenges, the implementation, and the goals that had not quite been achieved, we emerged from the conference energized and resolved to continue our work to promote the rights of women and girls globally. In this way, International Women's Day provides a focal point for all of us to rejoice in the amazing love and the strength and the wisdom of the women of this world, and to recommit ourselves personally and professionally to doing what each of us can to fight the injustice and discrimination that continues to grow so many mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters. Which brings me to the second cause for our celebration this evening, IANGEL's second anniversary. We started as a plucky band of feminist women from San Francisco, Milwaukee, Slovakia, and Nigeria. Our articles of incorporation were filed exactly 2 years and 3 days ago to become a new nonprofit dedicated to harnessing the power of pro bono legal services and connecting it to the cause of women's rights, locally, nationally, and around the world. We exist because the status quo is not acceptable, because women do not have equal rights or equal pay, because women are entitled to opportunity and education. They're entitled to decide whether and when and who to marry, and whether and when to have children. And they must be free to live without threat of violence, oppression, and subjugation. And while the need for education and advocacy and legal services to address these issues is huge and cavernous, the power of people to affect change on these issues, the power that is in this room now and in so many law firms and universities and bar associations is equally vast, but largely untapped. IANGEL exists to connect the one to the other. Our tagline is connecting for justice worldwide. And that's what we do, and that's what we have done in our 2 short years of existence. In those 2 years, We have hosted events and briefings on women's rights and human rights to give voice to academics and advocates and leaders and journalists from Uganda, Afghanistan, Tibet, South Asia, India, and Nigeria. We've taken action ranging from responding to an urgent need for legal assistance on a case of widows abuse in Nigeria, to joining a coalition to promote the use of the United Nations Convention to end all forms of discrimination against women as a tool to promote gender equality at the local level in the cities perceived off women. We've posted, we've blogged, we've tweeted. That is a new one for me. And we have developed amazing partnerships and friendships with inspiring advocates and organizations that do so much for women, including, of course, equal rights advocates and the Hague Domestic Violence Project that are recognized here this evening, but also the Bangladesh National Women Lawyers Association, the Women's Intercultural Network, the Czech Helsinki Project addressing forced sterilization issues, the Research and Advocacy Unit in Zimbabwe working on laws to reform child marriage, and Musawa, a global movement for Islamic feminism. And through it all, we inspired about 50 legal professionals to stand up and volunteer their time to work for women's rights and to help us build our network across cities, states, oceans, and continents. While the response to our work so far has been overwhelming and really heartwarming, it's fair to note that some have asked me, why do you do this? It's true, there are other organizations that do pro bono work. And there are other organizations that work on women's rights. But to the skeptics, I say, worry not. There is plenty of injustice to go around. IANGEL does not compete with those organizations. We embrace them. For we are all in this struggle together. And some have said, how can you expect to make a difference against the forces of violence and extremism that plague this earth? Those forces do not truly represent any religion. They are forces of ignorance and emptiness. They are remnants of broken spirits and waning humanity. But I can think of no better answer to those forces than for people of goodwill to join together with the same fierce and relentless and fearless commitment to work for equality, justice, and peace. You may think, or you may sometimes feel, that you are powerless to make a difference in this world on these kinds of issues, against these kinds of forces, but you are not. One person can make a difference. Each of us can make a difference. I have seen it, I have felt it, and I know it is true. Together, we are a powerful force. IANGEL is about using that power and founded on the principle that each of us has an obligation to do what we can to build a better world. Thank you all so much for being here to celebrate with us. So as Nancy was describing, there are a number of different projects that we've worked on over the last 2 years.
And in particular, there's two of them, but for not that they're exceptional to the others, but just as the others, that have been really wonderful, and we wanted to share some information about two of those with you. So the first of all, the first one we wanted to talk about is the Hague Domestic Violence Project. And so this one I wanted to just share with all of you because it's rather timely. The Hague Domestic Violence Project is a project of the Goldman School of Public Policy at UC Berkeley. They have been working on putting together an attorney practice guide. And to that end, we have partnered with them and got support from a number of different lawyers to get inputs on this guide and to make it something that was relevant and easy to read and accessible for people even coming from different fields of law who'd be interested in taking on this kind of work. So to kind of dive into it a little bit more, or to go from, the copy of a practice guide to what it actually means. Some of the reason that I'm particularly excited about this is there's one woman that I know who, in our community here in San Francisco, and she's a Congolese woman who had fled domestic violence in her home country. In the process, she had also gone through rape and torture there, and had very strongly, amazingly made her way to San Francisco. Unfortunately, her son is still back home, and she has a small son, who's something like 3 years old. And so, in talking to her caseworker, one of the concerns that we had was, we'd finally been able to get her granted asylum through the support of some amazing psychologists and some amazing medical professionals who could provide affidavits for her, and an incredible lawyer who worked on her case pro bono. But then when it came down to it, the question still, and the major concern for her, was how does she make sure that her son is safe? And so a lot of these questions about domestic violence and what happens, and what this is really addressing, is that when somebody tries to flee one country, and if they try and take their child with them, they can be seen as abducting the child by international law. And in the case of domestic violence survivor, we don't think that that should be the case. So we're working with the Goldman School of Public Policy and also a number of different organizations that have signed on to help promote this. So I think there's 4 different kinds of trainings that are upcoming in the next 3 months or so. So I would encourage all of you, by simply Google it, in case you're not familiar. You can make your way to their website and find information. You can download the practice guide if there's anybody that you're interested in learning about this or taking on one of these cases. It can be somebody who's interested in advocacy. It can be someone who's interested in taking on a case for a particular person. That would be great. So that's why I wanted to mention that one. And the other project that we are interested in sharing today is from the Equal Rights Advocates, and we're honored to be joined by their executive director today. And we wanted to also share a video that they've produced. This is part of their Let Her Work project. And Let Her Work has a series of videos about women. I think it'd be easier for me to show the video and then let their executive director explain some more of the details. And I have to run to the side to lower the lights, so hang on just a second.
I wasn't that kind of person I would ask for assistance or anything. When I came out of jail, it was important for me to have a job because I needed to have money. I have to survive. I just want to work. My dad was an alcoholic, so it was normal to see my dad being drunk every weekend. My dad used to physically abuse my mom, and all I ever wanted was to be loved. My self-esteem was really low. When I was looking into it, my first boyfriend was like, all I ever wanted was attention. Even though I get mistreated, verbally, get called names, they would be unfaithful to me, and I would forget them and go back to them because I thought that's all I ever was going to get. And I thought that's what I deserved. Growing up, I was like, I'm never going to grow up and be like my father. When I realized, like, well, you know what, I am black. You know what, I got to change. I'm not meant to sit in prison. The last time I came out of jail, no matter what, I had to work. I applied many jobs. So I checked out, yes, I do have felonies because I was being honest about it. If I check off no, they're gonna say, oh, I'm a liar and I'm still the same person. I was always rejected because of my criminal history, even though I wasn't that same person from back then. And I know that in life I have to work. I can't be sitting at home and be chilling and relaxing. I don't use drugs anymore and I don't drink alcohol, but science doesn't give people a second chance.
So with that, I'd like to welcome Noreen Farrell, the Executive Director from the Equal Rights Advocate. I'm glad you didn't show all three because I cry like a baby every time I see them. Well, it's so wonderful to be here to celebrate the second anniversary with everyone from IANGEL, and to tell you just a little bit about the Let Her Work project. It's a project of ERA to really help women who are facing barriers to get employment after they've been in the justice system. And I think that the project really speaks to what everybody in this room really strives for, right? Giving women and girls a fair chance to succeed. But you know, the reality is that none of us can accomplish this alone. My organization has 10 employees. We run projects like this. We run state campaigns and national campaigns. We're fighting to make sure that there's equality and that there's economic security for women and girls. But partnerships are just so critical. And so there was one lunch I was having with the amazing, incredible, passionate, and driven Nancy Newman. And, I was complaining. And I said, there's just too many women to help. There's not enough time. There's not enough people. And she literally went into her purse. And she took out of her purse these huge angel wings. I'm just kidding. That was a little bit, that's some dramatic effect. But essentially, she said, I have an idea for you. Help is on the way. And Nancy had a visionary idea that led to IANGEL. And to the Let Her Work project, Nancy and IANGEL said, let us help. I called her as I was really frantic trying to fundraise for this project, and I told her, listen, my funder really needs to know that I have more people to help me, right? That I have more people than just them willing to step up and help with this project. And she said, well, would an offer of 50 hours of pro bono help? Pro bono hours help, would that help with your funder? And they graciously offered that, and that actually did do it, and brought that funder in, the Lifestyle Foundation. And because of that, ERA has been able to launch a project that has really had a very profound impact on women in California. The legislation referenced in the video passed. It was a bill to break down barriers to certification in nursing fields for women who have been in the criminal justice system. We were able to offer services to women who wanted to expunge their records when that was appropriate, who wanted to know about their rights, what they need to check out, what they don't when they go to employment opportunities and interviews. And I think what we were able to ensure because of IANGEL was that the most marginalized women in our communities, right, who have moved on from their past, who've gone to schools, who want to support their families, who want to be leaders in their communities, that they have that very fair chance to succeed. So I just thank IANGEL, my sisters, for all of your assistance, for those 50 hours, for the vision of this work. And I just really want to thank you and congratulate you on this second year. And I look forward to many, many more years ahead of partnering with you. wanted to introduce Rebecca Hooley. She is a member and treasurer of our board of directors. Before she comes up, I also would like to mention that the board of directors of this organization redefines working board. And beautifully, they have stepped up on it weekends and evenings and countless hours before I came on the scene. But just from what I've seen in the last 2 months, these ladies are very spectacular. So with a warm welcome.
Thanks so much, Cecilia. We are so lucky to have you on board. So thank you. Tonight we'll be presenting 2 awards in the area of outstanding leadership in the area of women's human rights. In selecting our recipients, we wanted to honor women who inspire us from different generations. That's our theme, generations of inspiration. Our first awardee just graduated Berkeley Law in 2014. Despite just graduating at 27 years old, Joanna Chukliva has made significant contributions in the area of women's human rights. Prior to law school, Joanna received a human rights fellowship from the University of Chicago. With that fellowship, she chose to pursue human rights projects in Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. One of those projects was insisting widows of genocide start a self-sustaining business making baked goods. When I spoke with her about this project, she was very proud of it. One of the reasons that she was proud is that she helped these women develop practical business skills, but she was even more proud that she had inspired them to believe in their own vision of their future. They've been told, to make various projects and feeding things by international aid organizations, and she convinced them that they needed to believe in themselves and pursue their own vision. Despite her achievements in Africa, she felt frustrated by the legal impediments that she witnessed there, that she felt prevented them from leading happy and productive lives, including laws that barred women from having their own businesses. Based on this experience, she decided to attend law school. At Berkeley Law, Joanna chaired a number of student organizations, served as an editor on the California Law Review, and co-founded 2 legal projects. One of the projects that she started, the Post-Conviction Advocacy Project, has led to 8 people being released on parole after serving decades behind bars. Balancing her domestic social justice work with a commitment to fighting injustice abroad, she also launched the International Human Rights Workshop that gave Berkeley Law students an opportunity to provide Liberia's Law Reform Commission with information on how to improve their sexual and gender-based violence laws. Currently, Joanna is working as a litigation fellow at the ACLU of Northern California, where she focuses on criminal justice issues. So all of this is only a start, and if she has accomplished this much so far, I am sure she will continue to be a leader in this area. So please join me in congratulating Joanna for her outstanding leadership in women's human rights. Wow, it looks like an egg. It's pretty cool. It makes me feel like it would be awesome. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here. One, because the view is awesome, but 2, because I'm among such amazing lawyers, advocates, movers and shakers. Some of whom are my friends and my colleagues. And I just learned that my partner is watching this online from Hawaii. So in the past, when I was doing awards, I told folks a little bit about my work and how I got here. But this time, I would like to do something different. I would like to truly dedicate this award to the women in my life whose courage and resilience have inspired my work on women's rights issues in particular. I'd like to dedicate this award to the young women that I met when I was 16 years old and volunteering at an anti-trafficking NGO in Bulgaria. Those were young women who had been trafficked as sex slaves to Turkey and parts of Western Europe, who had somehow managed to find their way back to Bulgaria, but who still had to live with the stigma, the everyday struggle of having been through what they've been through. I I'd also like to dedicate this award to my students in Rwanda, who I'm going to send the video to, and who spend over 2 hours every single morning walking to school because they believe that education is going to give them and their siblings, they always think about their families, a better future. I recently learned that one of them had a baby girl. So this award goes out to Lindsay this week. And lastly, I would like to dedicate this award to a good friend of mine and a brave woman who's actually here with us tonight. Her name is Teresa Jackson. Hi, Teresa. She knows about this. I would invite her over, but it's a little bit uncomfortable up here, so maybe we'll take a photo later. But I do want to tell you about Teresa. Teresa has been fighting tirelessly to get her husband out of prison so that he doesn't have to die behind bars. In 1998, Luis committed a series of crimes, which were serious crimes, but thankfully nobody was killed. He was sentenced to 229 years in prison throughout. He's already served over 17 of those years. He's not the man he used to be when he committed the crimes, and he still has over 200 years to serve. Teresa's family is sadly and shamefully to me one out of thousands of families devastated by the criminal justice system that continues to disproportionately target, incarcerate, and disenfranchise people of color. So I bow to this woman, I really do. I bow to their courage and their humility. I bow to their everyday struggles. And I guess I also am using this as an opportunity to remind us all that whatever we do, wherever we are, our lives are interconnected with the lives of the other beings on this planet. Sometimes there are physical distances that separate us. Bulgaria or Syria or Iraq, they're over there and we're here. Sometimes there are racial, cultural, or socioeconomic differences and barriers that make it harder for us to feel the humanity in others that we perceive as different. But to me, those barriers are just that. They're social constructs. And as Dr. Martin Luther King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And ultimately, this is why I think that the kinds of networks that IANGEL creates are so meaningful. And this is why gatherings like this matter. And ultimately, I think this is why that I have chosen to live my life in service. Freedom. Thank you all. Thank you. A wonderful speech. Our second recipient, Andrea Carlise, has demonstrated an outstanding commitment to community service and pro bono work, as will become momentarily evident. She has devoted endless hours to service of women and girls through her work, and she is well known to members of women's bar associations and nonprofits, both nationally and locally and nationally. When IANGEL announced that Andrea was selected as a recipient of the award, leaders from women's bar associations across the United States flooded her with emails congratulating her, and many used the word well-deserved, which you will see as undeniable based on her service, her record of service. Andrea began locally with Queen's Bench, which is a local women's bar association in the San Francisco Bay Area, which aims to advance women in the law and promote equality and opportunity for all women. From there, she soon moved to the state level, becoming active with California women lawyers. She progressed quickly through the ranks, and in 2002 to 2003, she served as CWL, the California Women Law's lawyer president. From there, Andrea again ascended, and in 2013, she became the president of the National Conference of Women's Bar Associations, a national organization that works to advance equity for women in the legal profession and in society at large. At the same time that Andrea was leading those bar associations, she worked to improve California's laws through her service with the Conference of California Bar Associations. Through her work, she helped decide which resolutions the conference ultimately recommended to the California legislature. She also involved herself in crafting these resolutions, including a resolution to amend laws relating to marital rape, a change that was eventually made by the California State Legislature a couple of years ago. In addition to her involvement with these organizations, she has volunteered as a court-appointed special advocate representing representing children in juvenile court dependency proceedings, and assisted equal rights advocates to defeat a parental notification ballot measure. She has also served on the No Glass Ceiling Monitor Task Force of the San Francisco Bar Association, a committee that has the goal of increasing opportunities for women to serve in leadership positions in the legal profession. Currently, Andrea is the president of the board of Girls Inc. of the Island City, which helps girls achieve their goals of becoming strong, smart, and bold, and generally helping girls to build the skills that they need to succeed. There's more, but I'm going to leave it there, except to say that in addition to her outstanding work in community service, she also has a thriving employment and civil rights law practice at Patton, Wolin, and Police. So to recognize all the fabulous work that Andrea has done, please join me in congratulating her.
It does kind of feel like Oscar. So I am thrilled to be here. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And thank you, IANGEL. So like the Oscars, they told me I only have 3 minutes. So I wrote my comments out. I'm a little amused that I am now representing the older generation. Because it seems like just yesterday when I became a practicing lawyer in 1990. And I have actually been advocating for gender equity since my junior high school government class debate in favor of ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. And then, shortly thereafter, by supporting my mother's candidacy for the Colorado legislature during high school and college. Unfortunately, neither the Equal Rights Amendment nor my mother won those particular battles. But that didn't stop me, my mother, or my sister, who is here with me today, from continuing to fight for human rights and equality. I really got engaged in advocacy after I passed the bar in 1990 and joined the bench. It was there that I met our beloved Nancy Newman, and she encouraged me to join the leadership ranks, and I became one of her successors as the co-chair of the Reproductive Rights Committee. In the 20 plus years since, women's bar associations have provided me and countless others, many of whom are with us tonight, with a platform from which we can advocate for gender equity in the legal profession, on the bench, and in society. Through Queen's Bench, California Women Lawyers, and the National Conference of Women's Bar Associations, we've advocated for legislation and policy changes that provide for justice and ensure equal rights and opportunities. One of the first things we did on the Reproductive Rights Committee was to give out the Golden Diaper Award for the law firms that had the best parental leave policy. So we're still fighting some of those, well, actually most of the same battles. But my work with these organizations has also provided me with many treasured friendships and also a whole lot of fun. All of us here share a commitment to the rights of all people, women and girls included, of course, to a world free from discrimination and violence, where we can pursue our dreams and careers of our choice. My work for Girls Inc. has also provided the opportunity to ensure that future generations of girls are provided with opportunities to develop their inherent strengths, to take on healthy decision-making, boldly face challenges, and to carry on the fight for human rights and gender equity for future generations. Now, we also have IANGEL, and I celebrate with you this wonderful 2-year anniversary. And I also applaud you for the partnerships with organizations like Equal Rights Advocates and the Hague Domestic Violence Project. These provide us with opportunities to fight for gender equity by harnessing our legal skills to promote and help secure equality and human rights for women and girls locally, nationally, and around the world. Please, I ask you to please join me in supporting IANGEL with your time, skills, and resources. And again, thank you so much for this honor.
My paper is missing. And I took my paper. Thank you. Now my honor to introduce our featured speaker for the evening is Camila Chavez. Camila is the daughter of Richard Chavez and Dolores Huerta, the niece of the late Cesar Chavez, and the executive director of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. When we learned last week that Dolores would be unable to speak with us this evening, we were delighted that Camila stepped forward to join us. Of course, we didn't know this would happen when we selected Generations of Inspiration as our but we just roll with it, and now it's all the more apt. Camila was born an activist, raised in La Paz, California, the headquarters of the United Farmworkers Union. She's a graduate of Mills College and of the Women's Policy Institute of the Women's Foundation of California. She's profoundly committed to the cause of social justice and gender equality, and an accomplished leader and advocate in her own right. As a teenager, Camila participated in the march from Delano to Sacramento to bring attention to farm worker rights. The march was 342 miles long. Such marches are arduous, but transformative. I know this for myself. 40 years ago, when I was 14, I walked a mere 120 miles from San Francisco to Modesto in the UFW's March on Gallo. That was the first time I saw and became inspired by Camila's mother, Dolores Huerta. When we walked into Modesto, 20,000 people were waiting to greet us, chanting, "Huelga!" And on the stage, this tiny woman, Dolores Huerta, was encouraging us and urging us to join together and helping us feel the power of our connection with each other and our shared commitment to social justice. Dolores was awesome. I will never forget it. Indeed, to understand Camila, one must appreciate the accomplishments of her amazing mother. From co-founding the UFW with Cesar Chavez and leading the successful Great Boycott in the 1960s, to continued leadership in the decades that followed, Dolores led has led a life of activism, passion, and commitment to social justice that is an inspiration to all of us. In 2012, President Obama presented her with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, describing her as one of America's great labor and civil rights icons who has devoted her life to advocating for marginalized communities, noting that she continues to train and mentor new activists to walk the streets into history. Camila is now walking those streets as a co-founder and executive director of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. The foundation operates in agricultural communities in the Central Valley, developing grassroots leaders to pursue social justice through systemic and structural transformation. As executive director of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, Camila has spearheaded over 40 grassroots community organizations working on neighborhood improvements, and has led a successful campaign for just wages for farm workers in the Southern Central Valley, and worked on campaigns to defeat Proposition 72, 85, and 4, which would have restricted reproductive rights. I think Andrea worked on too. And she has developed and implemented a campaign to prevent teen pregnancy. Like Dolores, Camila is both an activist and a mother, and is continuing the proud tradition of creating generations of inspiration. To understand what this means in practical terms, Dolores explained her philosophy of parenting in a recent interview, saying, "A lot of mothers think, oh, I've got to give them all these toys to keep them entertained. But that's not what we ought to give our children. We need to give our children a love of social justice. Take those children out there on marches. Talk to them about issues. They understand, even when they are little ones. They understand the issues of justice because they are young and they are idealistic. So think of the impact you are going to have on that child 50 years from today." Camila is one such child, born and raised an advocate and an activist. We are grateful that she is here to remind us of her mother's legacy, and we are honored and inspired to reflect on that point 50 years from this evening to see how far we will have come. Please join me in welcoming Camila Chavez.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to share this special evening with you. I feel so honored to share this podium with such amazing women. And Dolores Huerta, my mother, sends her regrets that she could not be here with us this evening as well. Tonight I was hoping to share just a few thoughts on the importance of community organizing and leadership development as you all, as legal advocates, provide the legal and advocacy services that you do. And I wanted to give you some examples. Well, we know, so we'll start with the UFW, that Cesar and Dolores faced enormous challenges and legal hurdles in the first years due to injunctions where they were basically not allowed to have picket lines anywhere but 50 feet up in the air. And other legal barriers, but thankfully there were dedicated attorneys. I don't know if any of you have volunteered with the UFW. I know Nancy, anybody else volunteered with the UFW? Since everywhere I go, I always meet folks who volunteered in the 60s and the 70s. And thanks to those dedicated attorneys who worked for $5 a week and then got raised to $10 a week, that they were, and we were, as the Farm Workers Union, able to improve the working conditions and eventually the lives of thousands of farm workers, not just in California, but throughout the country. We know that attorneys were able to help dissect what were the laws in California that needed to be adjusted, and being able to share this information with the farm workers who then advocated for the California Labor Relations Act, which gives farm workers the right to organize, and California is the only state that has that law. And once the farm workers were able to vote for a union, it was then Dolores who actually trained them how to negotiate their contracts. They were right there in the negotiating room. And so we continue to use this model with the Dolores Huerta Foundation, that's really empowering people to help form policies and laws that affect their lives. As Nancy said, our mission is to create networks of organized communities pursuing social justice through systemic and structural transformation. So as a nonprofit, we don't help individuals, so we really look at what are these larger kind of policy issues that we can address. We have this organization, it's called Vecinos Unidos, United Neighbors, and that's where we go into communities using the house meeting model, the same model that Cesar and Dolores were recruited by Fred Ross Sr., in the 50s, we used that model where we basically train organizers to speak to people in their homes. And we don't tell people we're training them to become organizers. We just say, can you invite friends, families, and coworkers to your home for a meeting? We have a really important message that we'd like to deliver. And once we get people in that intimate setting, we talk to them about how when folks take responsibility, when they commit to working with their neighbors, that they can make significant change. And we then give them the examples of how people just like them, immigrants, people who don't speak English, that they, poor people, right, have made significant changes and improvements in their communities. A lot of the changes are just have to do with infrastructure. The communities where we work really look like third world, kind of communities where there were, for example, one neighborhood of about 26 residents who did not have access to the sewer system. So the neighbors to the left and the neighbors to the right, but this plot of land somehow did not get that connection. And because it was so expensive to constantly clean out the septic tanks, that many of them just set up makeshift outhouses outside and would use the restroom outside, and it was very dangerous, the situations that they were living in. So we were able to help them figure out how to become their own advocates. They invited the county supervisor to their neighborhood to show them exactly what the makeshift outhouses and how people were living, and were able then to put pressure on that county supervisor to get the USDA to come in and provide the money that was needed to actually develop, create and establish the sewer system. So those are, there are more examples that we have, and I actually wanted to share about two of our community leaders. Both of them are Mexican immigrant women who were both recruited through the house meeting model. Leticia Prado is the mother of two in Wheat Patch, California. And who here knows where Wheat Patch is? Who's heard of Wheat Patch? Okay, well, the Gates of Wrath was took place in the Sunset Labor Camp, which still exists there in Wheat Patch. And when I met Leticia, it was it was a house meeting, but it was outside of the house, and it was actually a free kind of dirt lot. And we were asking community members, what improvements would you like to see in your, we'd already gone through the wrap of, how people come together and we need that commitment. And then we asked, what would you like to see? What changes would you like to see in your community? And all of them agreed that they wanted to see their schools improved. That there were issues about pesticides being sprayed on fields nearby. They weren't sure what those pesticides were and what the damage they might cause to their children. They wanted fences around the schools because there had been some safety concerns of children just leaving campus or strangers that shouldn't have been on campus coming on campus. And they also thought that they should have water filters with cleaner water. So we helped them form their first petition, that they're the ones who took it to the school board, presented their petitions, and the school board members said, well, we would like to help you, but we actually don't have the money. So what do you all think as community members of passing a school bond measure? And so they learned what a school bond measure was, and they said, that would be a great idea. We're happy to tax ourselves. And they went door to door, and Leticia Prado and her husband and her children, they went and spoke to all of the voters in their community, and that school bond measure passed with over 70% of the vote. And so as a result, they actually got all of the things that they had asked for and a brand new gymnasium in their middle school, which folks from Bakersfield actually come to use their gymnasium because it's so nice. After a while, Leticia was proud of this accomplishment and continued to go to the school board meetings and decided, I could be on the other side of that school board. I should be making these decisions what does it take to run? And so she actually ran for school board and now is a school board member. And she also is a member of the water board in her town as well. So she sits on two local boards, and this is just one example of the grassroots leadership, right? I also want to share about Lupe Ortiz, who's a mother and grandmother in the neighboring town of Arvin. She was also recruited from the House meeting, and I believe when she came out in 2008 is when the neighbors, community members, had decided that they wanted to pass a 1 cent tax because there were services to the fire and police that needed more funding, and so they said, okay, well, we can all tax ourselves this 1 cent tax increase. And this is a community that has 40% unemployment. Okay, most 90% of them are agricultural workers, and so they successfully passed that 1 cent tax increase. She ran for school board a few years later, and just recently the school board, recognizing that they need more funding for infrastructure improvements, some of their schools, schools like jails, as they asked the community, would you support a school bond measure? And they just passed another school bond measure in Irvine, California, where all of the schools will receive infrastructure improvements. In the same little town of Irvine, California, there are now 3 new student council members that are all 25 or younger, have taken over because, again, they have also received some leadership training, and they're like, well, we can, be on this board and make these decisions. And so I just wanted to share how Leticia and Lupe are just these 2 examples of many people's lives who are being changed and transformed as they learn how to advocate. And that, for us, is so important, that once we can teach people how government works, school board, all of that, that they can then advocate on the local, the state, and the national level. And just as Leticia and Lupe are teaching their children and grandchildren and being that model, my mother Dolores was that example for me. Being my first feminist teacher, she was working so hard in the union and advocating for workers' rights that she was away from home for a long time. I don't know if anybody heard the KPFA interview this morning. There was an author that was on, and she was also talking about how her parents were spent many years in jail, and how they were activists, and how and now with her own children, how she's speaking. So it was just an interesting thing, which reminded me a lot about our family and raising my children as well. But and the funny story is that my mom was gone so much that I actually used to call my dad Mama. So, but the thing about Dolores and her accomplishments is that when she started lobbying in the 1960s, pre-USW, she was working for an organization that her and Cesar were both members of, the Community Service Organization. She was just one of 2 female lobbyists in Sacramento, and at that time, women still had to wear skirts to go into the Capitol. So of course, there was a lot of sexism and harassment that she experienced, but that didn't stop her. She negotiated contracts with growers, led national boycotts, became the national spokesperson for the most impoverished workers. And her example of her driving us everywhere, literally on the weekends, we weren't involved in organized sports. I tried to take ballet, and that didn't work because that was just too structured. And our weekends were really all about marches, and they didn't sit there and tell us about social justice or political theory, just doing this leading by example. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my children as well, and I encourage you all to do the same with the young people in your lives. One thing that is really important to us is that, and what Leticia and Lupe learned, is how we hold our elected officials accountable, right? And so we teach people that we hire elected officials on election day, and we can also fire them when they don't come through for us. And I wanted to share a current battle that we're in Kern County. We're facing an education crisis. Kern High School District is the largest high school district in California, and it has a racially and ethnically diverse student population. 62% of the students are Latinos, 25% are white, and 6% are African American. However, Kern High School District has the highest rates of suspension and expulsion. We are we're 4 times above the state average and 7 times above the national average for suspensions and expulsions. And guess who the majority of those students are who are getting suspended and expelled? Latinos and African Americans. African American students are expelled at 500% above the national norm, and Latinos at 400%. So when this was brought to our attention a few years ago, of course, we have done it to find out what's going on, because our organization, although we had helped, the vecinos and supported them in their different fights for education improvement, this was something that we realized, wow, we have a serious crisis on our hands. And so parents and youth for the last couple of years have been advocating for alternative discipline methods. We know that these racist practices of the Kern High School District can't continue. And we also know that there are alternative discipline methods that are being used in other places. Oakland, Los Angeles, throughout California, in the country, programs called Positive Behavior Intervention Supports and Restorative Justice, which another speaker was on KPFA this morning, so I was driving into the city talking about restorative justice. So although we have been advocating, we don't feel that the High School District Board is actually taking this serious enough. And so last October, we actually filed a lawsuit. And we are working with several public interest legal firms that are that have filed this lawsuit based on racial bias. And so we hope that we succeed, but we know that we can't just depend on that lawsuit. So we're continuing to work with students and parents on community organizing and making sure that we still have this consistent presence at school board meetings, and that during the elections, when we have, when they're up for the election, that they are out there educating their neighbors and local voters about opportunities. So in November, community members were able to vote one ally onto the board. So we have 1 out of 5. So anyways, long ways to go, but we of course are going to hang in there. And working with our attorneys is a very, I think, complicated process. There's a lot of legalese that goes into it, and so it has been our responsibility as a Dolores Huerta Foundation to help community members understand what's going on, but then also to make sure that their input is provided. And so just wanted to, kind of drop that seed, as you all continue your work, to really partner with community leaders and advocates in making sure that the community members are right along with you in your legal fights, for policy victories and all of that, because we know that legally we can accomplish amazing victories, but these victories are even stronger when community members are able to provide that input and can consult throughout that process, right? We've formed the Kern Education Justice Collaborative, and we have a variety of community members, including teachers, because we think that this is a great thing to do, but if the teachers are going to have to implement these alternative methods, we want to make sure that it's something that they are agreeing to. And so, anyway, so this is just, I wanted to share, the current battle that we're in here in Central Valley of California. The farm worker struggle continues, and just like IANGEL and all the great work that you're doing, we can all support each other. So I just want to thank all of you for the work that you're doing, and the women who are empowered, right? Once they get employed and become these leaders, and really then teaching them the next steps, right? How to become advocates, and then going on, moving up hopefully to these local boards, state boards. Dolores was speaking to a group of college students, and she, in every college that she goes to, she encourages young people to think about running for office, especially women, because there was a survey done at an Ivy League college, and they asked the young men, how many of you feel prepared to run for office? And 80% of them said yes. And how many of women do you think, when they asked a young girl, the students or young women, how many do you think said that they felt that they were prepared? 30% of the young women felt that they were prepared. So we have a lot of work to do, right, to really have women understand their power and to really take that power, and we will continue to do the work that we do, right, to be those examples. So thank you everybody for everything that you do. I want to end with a couple of vivas. Dolores is here, that's how she would end it. So vivas long live, and so we're going to do Viva la Mujer, and I'm going to say Viva la Mujer, and everybody say Viva. Okay? Hold on. And then we're going to say Viva la Justicia, long live justice, and Viva IANGEL. That we continue to support this amazing organization and have many more celebrations and anniversaries. And then we'll end with Si Se Puede, it can be done. And this is a term that Dolores coined in a strike. A lot of people think that Chavez came up with Si Se Puede, but it was really Dolores. And she likes to brag how that President Obama, when they met, said, "Hey, I stole your slogan," and she said, "Yes, you did." So I'll start off with Viva la Mujer! Viva! Right. Viva la Justicia! Viva! Viva IANGEL! Viva! And we'll end with a Si Se Puede, an organized unity clap, because we know that working together, we will succeed. Si se puede, si se puede, si se puede, si se puede.
Thank you so much, Camila. When she was talking about the house meeting model, I wanted to share that there's a group that I got the pleasure of meeting their founder in Nepal maybe 8 years ago or something. One sentence that she said made a huge impression on me. She said, she had basically founded this movement that had changed so many things about housing rights for women in Nepal. And very humbly, she said, actually, it's all just about providing a space. And she said, the women know what the problems are. The women know what the solutions are. They just need to have a space, and it has to be okay to bring their kids. So I just rented a space and bought a rug, and then it happened. So kind of with that, I wanted to share that, some of the way forward that we're looking at is really about creating spaces. So we're creating online spaces, not just for communication, like getting to share this with people on YouTube, but also virtual spaces where we can have the people who are leading these movements and people who come to us with projects from around the world, who can then tell the attorneys who are volunteering and paired up on their programs what it is that they're looking for, what kinds of research, and so that they can direct within that space. Even though we have borders, we have things like Skype that bridge those borders. And so with that, I wanted to introduce 2 more board members, Yana and also Jolene, to join us and to talk a little bit about how we can use this space today.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Yana and I'm the treasurer of IANGEL. What a wonderful evening. It's a truly full room of inspiring females. And I want to share with you my own personal reason why I joined IANGEL in hopes to encourage you to join our network as well. I believe a democratic state is pivotal to protection of human rights, including gender equality. But I was born in Slovakia, Eastern Europe, under a communist regime where human rights are often violated. But as you might know, 1989 marked a tremendous change in the history of Slovakia and Eastern Europe with the fall of communist regime. And as a witness also a teenager, I have still a lot of memories that influence me to this day. I remain greatly inspired by the many people from different backgrounds who are at the forefront of the revolution, helping to bring democracy to Slovakia. And based on my experience, that I also believe in possibility of change in a legal regime. And that's precisely why I joined IANGEL. Because IANGEL has begun successfully to create an action network connecting people who have the right kind of skill and power to make a change. So I wanted to ask you to consider joining our network as well. I know a lot of you are already very much involved in supporting human rights, but please do consider how your skills, ideas, or monetary support can be of help to our cause. And with that, I want to invite my other board members to see the easy way how you can join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be part of IANGEL's board. I recently joined, and after moving from Washington, D.C. and working on women's equality issues for the last decade. So we're really happy to see such a great turnout tonight, and to see so many people who are interested in becoming involved. As you heard earlier in the evening, we are on the front lines of a battle right now globally for women's rights, as they're increasingly backsliding in many countries around the world. That's why it's just so important what Nancy's created here and what Cecilia's taking forward. And we hope that you'll participate in one way or another in supporting the organization. And there are several ways to do that. Actually, if you notice on the back of your name tag, we have a card. And there are a few ways to participate. Feel free to participate in all of them, choose one, whatever works for you. Of course, we would happily accept donations. We're a nonprofit, and we need that funding support to be able to continue the work and to be able to grow the programs. But we also need volunteers. Obviously, it's a network of attorneys who are going to give their expertise to these issues worldwide, but we also need a variety of other types of volunteers too, so you don't have to be a lawyer to volunteer. Many opportunities to help out. And the third area is communications and social media. And we would really appreciate tweeting, putting on LinkedIn, starting a dialogue, starting a conversation about some of the issues pertaining to women's equality, the challenges we're facing, and the IANGEL work in this area that's trying to support women and activists worldwide. And fourth, to make an introduction. And what that really means is that we would appreciate any ideas you have for partnerships, funding, others who will join the network, who will volunteer, and if you're willing to make an introduction to an individual or an organization or a company or another nonprofit or an initiative that would be relevant to this type of work, we'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. So I hope when you leave here that you'll be able to check these boxes at least and help us out in one way or the other. Cecilia, who you've met earlier in the evening, will happily accept your cards. Otherwise, the front desk where you checked in, if you want to put them there, then we'll collect them. And Cecilia and the rest of the team will be following up with each and every one of you after the event too, so to see what your thoughts are. So thank you so much.
So very simply, if all of you can actually even take a moment, I think that there's some pens that we can pass around. So if everyone could just actually pull your name tag out and stuffed into the back of your name tag. And for those of you who are watching at home, you can use any of the links that are above on the website. But so for all of us here in informed, if you pull that second piece out of your name tag, and then you can check a box. So the pens will kind of float around. I think there are more people than pens, but check a box of whatever way it is that you think that you can help out. And then all you have to do is stuff it back into that same little envelope, and we'll collect them later, and that way we have your name and your information. So at this point, we wanted to welcome back News Crossing to share another song with us.
When I look into your eyes, it's like watching the night sky or a beautiful sunrise. There's so much they hold, and just like them old stars, I see that you've come so far to be right where you are. How old is your soul? I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. Giving you all my love, still looking up. When you're needing your space to do some navigating, I'll be here patiently waiting, see what you find. 'Cause even the stars, they burn, some even fall to the earth. We got a lot to learn, God knows we're worth it. I won't give up. I don't want to be someone who walks away so easily. I'm here to stay and make a difference that I can make. Our differences, they do a lot to teach us how to use the tools. And yes, we got a lot at stake. And in the end, you're still my friend. At least we did intend for us to learn. We didn't break, we didn't burn. As we learned how to bend without the world caving in. Had to learn what I got, what I'm not, who I am. No, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love, still looking up. No, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. Giving you all my love, still looking up. No, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love, still looking up.
Here's where we all thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank all the speakers for all the things, all the amazing inspiration that everyone has provided. I'm going to take a moment of generations of inspiration prerogative and recognize my mother, Carol Newman. She's watching. I hope you're watching, Mom. I know it's hard, but I hope it's worth it. She dragged me along to so many marches, I can't tell you. Never-ending commitment to justice and peace and equality. And I'm truly inspired by you, Mom. So thank you. I hope everyone, board members, come on, Anna Reed, come on, Noreen, come on. Thank you so much to Jay Moser for this wonderful event, for the beautiful room, and for those wonderful food and beverages. It's really special. Thank you again to Hanson Bridget for supporting us, when we were like just nothing, and really believing in this thing that we're building. Thank you to Queen's Bench, all the support, and CWL and the Women's Intercultural Network. What an awesome thing, Mary. I love you. And to the law firms, we have just a little trickle of law firms now, but it's growing. So Hanson Bridget, Corella Braun Martel, the law offices of Christine Chen, Shepard Moen, Mofo, Morrison Forster, and DLA Piper have all been very supportive to us. And we look forward to growing that network and getting even more support, because we're really moving and doing stuff, and we need the support. So thank you all so much. Thank you for the Si Se Puede. That really brought me back. Si Se Puede. Si Se Puede.